It's starting to feel like we're making real progress. We're nearly at the end of this module, which means we're almost at the end of the real boring stuff. And that also means we're nearly at the start of the good stuff. In the next module, we'll be starting to play around with Oxygen for real. But before we do that, we need to look at templates. And that's what we're doing in this lesson. We're going to look at how templates work in Oxygen Builder. We're going to be looking at where you assign them and how you assign them in different situations. And then we'll be looking at how they compare to things like reusable parts. So let's not waste any more time so we can get this module over and done with, and let's jump into it. So what we have here is Oxygen Templates area. This can be found under Oxygen and then Templates. And what you do here is you actually create the templates before you start putting the content in there or the elements that you design. And let's just jump in and create our first one. Now, a quick tip before we create templates, I want to actually point out a bit of an idea, and that is to set up some sort of a naming convention. I'm going to show you an example here. Now you can see here that everything that I have that is a top level template starts with a 1. So for example, my 404 page, my articles page for blogs, my home page, my standard inside page, my inside wide page, and then I have a landing page. And these all start with 1. Then I have reusable parts, which are the large elements. So stuff like your footer, your heroes, those sorts of things like navigation. Then I have the sort of smaller areas such as the FAQs and little things like buttons, for example. And then sometimes I'll use 4 for just random things. Now I recommend doing something like this just so it keeps it organized. You can imagine if these were all randomly named, how hard it would be to track them once you have a full working site. So with that in mind, let's go back here. And I'm going to create this one by calling it 1 and homepage. Now you don't have to follow the same naming convention as me. Just find something that works for you and will keep your Oxygen setup organized. Now once that's been published, you can see here that we have the option to edit with Oxygen. But I want to go through a few settings first. Let's go down here. This here is for design sets. Now if you are going to be creating or designing stuff for design sets, this is where you can set these things up per section. So you can include this template as a part of your design set, for example. You can set up things like your screenshots and specific URLs for the screenshot so that you can then start on-selling or sharing this design set with other people. Now let's close this up and look at these standard elements here for the Oxygen template. You can see here at the very top is inherit the design set from other templates. So if you have multiple templates set up and one of those templates has something inserted into it called the inner content, you can reuse that template as the base for your new template. Currently we don't have any set up, but if you do, you can select them here. And that just means that if you make changes to that base template, that they'll be updated on all the templates that inherit that design. The next section we have is where does this template apply? And we can assign where we want the Oxygen template to apply in a few various ways. For example, we have singular, and this is where you are assigning it to a specific type of situation. So for example, all post types or specific posts, pages, medias, custom CSS, reusable blocks, etc. You can also specify things like a specific taxonomy or a specific page ID. You can also add these to archives, which is perfect for things like blog pages or custom post types if you're doing something like a projects area, or also specific pages like if you're doing a template for your actual blog, or specific templates for things like the actual details page in your blog. And you can do that by selecting one of these, for example, taxonomy, and then saying things like what category that in, what tag that belongs to, etc. Same with post types. You can assign this to things like a post or a block or a user. And as you add more stuff with custom post types, more things will start to show up in here. Again, you can assign things to authors, but only have one author here. Now these are some of the core things, something like front page, your blog pages, your search results, your 404, your inner content, and most importantly, your catch-all. Now, what is a catch-all? If you click catch-all, it essentially means that by default, every single page is going to use this template or try to. So how do you overwrite this? Well, this is where the template priority comes into play. And this is where you would do something like select front page and give this a different priority, such as 1. Basically, the lower the number, the lower the priority. So putting 1 means that it's going to overwrite a 0. Now, when you're finished, let's click update. Now we'll go back into templates and we'll create an inside template while we're here. Let's go add template and let's call this one inside standard. We'll just click publish and we're actually going to make this one our catch-all. So let's click update. Lastly, let's look at reusable parts. We'll go in here to templates and we'll create our first reusable part. Now you'll notice that you can't see the same template settings like where to assign reusable parts, and that's because you can't assign them anywhere. You essentially create them and then you place them in templates or pages where you want to use them. So let's call this one, for example, to and footer. Now we'll go publish. If we go back to our Oxygen templates, you'll see that they're all in there and each one is assigned as a template or a reusable part. Now, we will be going into more detail on how templates and reusable parts work as we start to build the page and the website together, and this is where things will really start to click. But let's wrap this lesson up. Yes, it's time to celebrate. We're finally at the end of this module. You should have a good idea now about how to use templates and all of the other settings to do with Oxygen. Now, there's only one thing left to do before we jump into the builder itself. That's right, click complete lesson, and I'll see you in the next module.